There we go. Good evening. Sorry about that. For some reason, I couldn't see my camera at all. Well, I mean, I could physically see it, but I couldn't get my streaming to see it. Anyway, good evening. Oh, have you had a good week? It's been a bit of a fun few days in our house. Having a bit of a summer break. And with that, we've had all the coverage of the Olympics going on. And so it's the first time really that our little lad has been aware that every so many years, people from all over the world gather to do things like, as he puts it, running in circles. He hasn't really been that interested in much of it, but he got very excited by the BMX the last couple of days. And so that's been a lot of fun. And just him getting to see people from all over the world, all different cultures, all different languages, listening to some of the things that have come out of the Athletes Village separate to the main coverage. There have been a lot of coverage of teams singing together, including, of course, the amazing times that the Fijians spend singing when they worship together and they gather together and pray as a team. And that's been really beautiful. Lots of different things going on. And one of the things that I love about it is it's such a diverse array of sports. So it covers people of all sorts of different body types, different sizes, different skill sets. Some are incredibly strong and quite large. Some are tiny and flexible and springy. Some are able to go through huge feats of endurance. We watched the end of both of the cycling, the road cycling competitions this last couple of days, and just the endurance and the ability to just push through barriers of pain. Or one of the male cyclists, and I can't remember which one it was, talking about, well, he was pleased to have achieved what he did because it made 6 hours of agony worthwhile. And it's just an extraordinary array of humans doing things that humans can do. And whether it's just that on this occasion I've picked up on it more because I've been quite selective as to what we've shown in the house. There are some sports that I don't particularly want to show, and other broadcasts where you know that maybe some of the content isn't going to be entirely suitable for young ears. But a lot of what we've seen has been extremely positive about the way in which everybody can find something that they are good at. And that's great. That's great. That's absolutely great. You know, this idea there's something for everybody. But the more I think about it, the more I begin to realize that there is also a bit of a danger in that. Because it doesn't matter whether every human being is capable of such things. The reality is not every human being has the opportunity or even the desire to do such things. And so as much as I love it, and Liz would tell you, it's one of the few big sort of major sporting events I show any real interest in. We have to remember that most people are never going to win an Olympic medal. Most people are never going to even compete at a level where there's medals to be won. For most of us, the nearest that we will ever get to any sort of sporting competition is some local club or a school sports day. And that's fine too. But as I began to think about that and began to think about, well, how do you explain that you should do things because you love them and you should do things because they're good for you, not just because there's a chance of all the celebrity and the success and the fame and the medals? I began to think about what it's like in a spiritual way. I don't know about you. I grew up on a diet of testimonies. Either stories that were being told me that are stories that are in the Bible, but were told so often and with such enthusiasm that it seemed as though the people that were telling them might possibly have been there. I remember on some occasions when my parents weren't available and I needed a babysitter. One of the people that used to occasionally look after me was an old preacher called Omri Bowen. And I remember him telling the stories of the Old Testament, and to me, he looked like he was ancient. Truth be told, he probably wasn't really very old. He certainly wasn't as old as my own parents are now, but at the time, he seemed to me to be the most ancient of people. But he would talk with such excitement, such passion about the old Bible stories. I was convinced he must have been there. And then, of course, there were the testimonies that people told of the miraculous things God had done in their lives. Stories of healing, stories of deliverance, stories of God providing when no one else could, stories of God giving them wisdom and grace. And stories would come back from people living in parts of the world where the church was persecuted, and they would talk about God rescuing them out of the hands of the authorities, or God making a way for them to escape, or God protecting them. Even every now and then, there were stories of God raising the dead. And I'm grateful for those stories, but at times it could make it seem like that's what life was like. And it's not that I don't believe them, I do. And people who know me know that I could tell you stories of extraordinary things that God has done in my life, and times when only God could save, and only God could rescue, and only God could heal, and only God could deliver. And he absolutely comes through. And I'm not saying there's a problem with that this evening, but what about the rest of the time? What about the days when I just have to get on and pay the bills and do the gardening? What about the days when I just have to sit with my friend, or just get on with the things that are normal life, that don't need miracles, the things that don't need divine supernatural power to intervene? They just need me to roll up my sleeves and get on with it. What if I'm never going to be some sort of spiritual Olympian? Funnily enough, I think most people of my generation, certainly, we've grown up understanding that God provides for those day-to-day things in terms of he guides us into truth. One of my favorite promises that Jesus gives is found in John 16. Starting in verse 12, he says this: I still have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. However, when he, the Spirit of truth, has come, he will guide you into all truth. For he will not speak on his own authority, but whatever he hears, he will speak, and he will tell you things to come. He will glorify me, for he will take of what is mine and declare it to you. Now, that phrase, he will guide you into all truth, it hasn't got any qualifiers on it. It isn't limited. Doesn't he will guide you into all theological truth, or he will guide you into all supernatural truth, or he will guide you into all the truth you need to raise the dead and drive out demons? No, he'll guide you into all truth. He'll inform your choices about how you live your lives, about how you raise your families, about how you relate to your neighbors. He can show you what's going on in the world so that you are not sucked into hysteria or a defensive mentality, as so many seem to be today. He will protect your heart and your mind from the things that are lies that would frustrate your experience. He'll guide you into all truth, truth for every decision, truth whenever you need wisdom, that you can ask for it. It's easier to see those verses in the context of, well, we needed wisdom to know how we would get through this terrible circumstance, or we needed wisdom to know what we should do to pray in this particular circumstance, or how we were going to deal with this crisis in our experience. But today I had no crises. Today there was nothing disastrous befalling me. Today my health was okay, and my home was comfortable, and I wasn't under attack, and I wasn't stressed. I wasn't distressed. God, did you have truth for my choices, truth for my decisions, truth to keep my heart and mind set on you? Well, yes. In 2 Peter 1, starting at verse 2, we read about God's provision of his power in our lives. Grace and peace be multiplied to you in the knowledge of God and of Jesus our Lord, as his divine power has given to us all things pertaining to life and godliness through the knowledge of him who called us by glory and virtue, by which have been given to us exceedingly great and precious promises, that through these we may be partakers of the divine nature, having escaped the corruption that is in the world through lust. Everything for life and godliness. So today in my normal day, today in my normal experience, today in the way in which I conduct myself, in the way in which I see the world, in the way in which I think about my own situation and pray into the lives of others or engage with the people around me, his divine power gives me life and godliness. How? Through my knowledge of him. The old hymn says, I need thee every hour. It doesn't mean that every hour there's a crisis. It means that even when the world seems to be plain sailing, even when everything seems to be together and all my ducks are in the proverbial row, God, I need you. You are my life. Every breath, every thought, every moment. And so the question came to me, well, how do we know? How do we know? When God calls you to do something and it's a specific task and a specific occasion and a specific place, well, you would need to know that. God would have to show you, and you would know it, and you would know if you'd done it or you hadn't done it. But what about the moments between those things that we think of as being service? Whether it's moments between what we think of as being our gatherings, the times when we come together to worship or to pray or to get around the word, or what about the moments where it's not about me telling someone about Jesus in that moment? It's not about me praying for someone. It's just about me getting on with life. Am I supposed to live on my wits? Am I supposed to just get on with it without him? Well, clearly not, because he's my life. Luke 19, Jesus shares a parable with his disciples. In that parable, there's just a spectacular declaration of the kind of purpose God has for you and for me, of an understanding of what it is to live a life that you've been given, a life that has been entrusted to you. This is how the parable starts, Luke 19, starting at verse 12. So Jesus said, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to come again. So he called 10 of his servants, delivered to them 10 minas, and he said to them, occupy till I come. Some modern translations say, do business till I come. It's a bit narrower than the actual original Greek. The idea of a minas was that it was an amount that was given to a servant for them to live and to fulfill their purpose. For them to live and to fulfill their purpose. And you could tell what their purpose was by the minas that they were given. For all of them, their minas would contain what was necessary for them to have food. The minas would contain what was necessary for them to take care of their bodies and their physical needs. But there would also be those things that were specific to their task, to their purpose. And the picture Jesus paints is of the master who gives the minas to each one of his servants and then says, occupy, do business. Pragmatseomi actually is make something happen. Use this to cause something until I come back. He's not specific. He doesn't say invest it. He doesn't say use it to sow something and grow something. He doesn't say use it to build something and to sell something. He doesn't give them detail of what they're to do with it. Each one of them will experience in what has been poured out in their lives the kind of life that they're supposed to live. I don't know what God made you. I don't know how God made you to interact with him and to interact with the world around. I don't know how you express yourself. I mean, I might, if you're someone that I know, I might know how I experience or receive it, but I don't know what potential there is within you. And the life within you is the fullness of the life of God, but he delights to express something unique in you. But his command to you is not hang on to it for the big occasion, is not keep it safe until something really important calls upon it. It's occupy. Occupy. You make use of this until I come. You make use of the life that I've given you. And so tonight, in the natural, if there are gifts and talents and abilities that God has given you, well, please use them. Find out what you're capable of. Use them for his glory and for your delight and joy. Use them because that's how you are made. You are formed. Being a good steward is not to hide it away, but to pour it out and to share it with the world. But in a spiritual sense, no matter who you are, no matter whether your life is filled with moments where if it was not for a miracle, you would not be able to continue, or your life is seemingly calm and without the need for those great supernatural things, the reality is that his divine power has given you everything for life and for godliness in the knowledge of him. And so today, do the things that your hand finds to do. Take care of your family and your friends. Look after the people that come across your path. Make use of all that God has made you and make something out of it. Day by day, moment by moment, between now and when he returns. Because yes, I am sure that if you find yourself in crisis, if you find yourself needing his defense and his shield, if you find yourself faced with the possibility of raising the dead or healing the sick or casting out demons, you find yourself in the midst of a storm that needs calming, then his power is available, and that he is with you and he is for you, and he is able to do exceedingly above all that you ask or think. But I promise you, God doesn't look at your day to day and think it's too small, too trivial, too irrelevant, but rather he has given you his own life so that you can occupy, you can do something with it until he comes. There is nothing impossible for him, so there is nothing impossible for you. And the beauty of your life and the majesty of your life and the excellency and the glory and the power of your life is Jesus, Christ in you, the hope of certain glory. That's our thoughts for this evening. God bless. God willing, we'll see you next Sunday. Don't forget, you can get in touch. The details appear below these videos, and we would love to hear from you, to pray with you, to bless God for his goodness in your life, or to pray for him to make a way for you if that's what you need. Have a great week.